Hello YouTube, Mike at Carbonite Lab, sharing with you another video. This time it is my Vipers. Two squads of Vipers here, all painted up in the Saim Hann Warhammer paint scheme. Had to be. I've grown really accustomed to painting red. A friend of mine says that I just must love painting red because I have both the Saim Hann Warhammer and I have my Blood Angels, both of which are red. Yes, I think that's a fair statement. I've grown very accustomed to working with red. I guess it is my new favorite color. But to be quite honest, I just enjoy the war host, and I like fluff, so I had to keep the paint scheme the same. The two squads are different in the fact that the three up front, the first squad, they were actually purchased as brand new models and assembled, and the three in the rear, those were actually all used models that I purchased. I had to deal with previous paint schemes or jobs that were on them, most of which were pretty bad. I picked them up for a song, to be honest, because the paint schemes were pretty horrible. The first squad that you see out in front, being that they were purchased brand new, I was able to try something new on the canopies, of which I'll be doing with all my Eldar vehicles from this point on, is paint the underside of the canopy first, and then leave the clear plastic on the outside, mask it off, and then paint the exterior of the vehicle. So that way when you peel the masking tape off, you get that nice candy shell look on the canopy, which makes it look like real glass that's illuminated from within. Whereas the squad in the rear, the canopies were a little on the foggy side to begin with, so I just went ahead and painted the outside of them. And I think even in this poor focus, you can see the difference between the two. That looks very matte, very muted, where this actually has a realistic look to it. This is more cartoony. This is real. Some lessons learned from painting this squad first to painting this squad second was that this squad, I was able to try different shadow techniques using masking tape just in the edge of the crease to create a shadow above, and then reapplying the masking tape above the crease, ending in the crease, for the highlight below. And it makes the shadow drop into the crease and then stop right where the highlight would pick off to really sell that rounded edge, ending right there in that shadow at its darkest point, and then the highlight picking up. The contrast between the two, shadow and highlight butted up next to each other, really does lend to the visual look of the model. I don't think the camera is going to pick it up well, but on the tabletop you can see the difference. The squad in the rear, I painted the shadows and the highlights freehand with the airbrush, and it didn't come out as good compared to this squad. But then again, that's what it's all about. Painting is about learning lessons, figuring out what works for you, and then and growing from there, so that way you can paint your next model even better. The squad in the rear also has bright lances, because when they were purchased used, some of them didn't have any weapons at all. So I was able to round up three similar weapons. They just happened to be bright lances, and I put them on there for uniformity. I run them as shuriken cannons, though. The other difference is that this squad in the front took a little bit more time with some freehand as I've gotten better, and painted runes on the actual bands of the marking itself, and even some on the actual model down here below. Dropped in the decals on the wings. That was a nice little addition. I'm glad I did. The decal on the front is the same across the board, so that way at least they all represent the war host. I like the way that the new decals, and I stated before, the new decals are so much better. They're thicker, they slide better, and they don't bleed the background color through, which I was not a fan of for the previous decals. These are so much better. And the white contrasting on the red really makes it stand out. You can really see the Cosmic Serpent, especially when you've got it all laid out on the tabletop. You've got so many greens and browns, then you've got these red models with the white decals. It really pops. Spent a little more time with the Guardians themselves as well. The red armor with the black overcoat, and I took some time and hand painted the Viper specific rune on the Viper's helmet. Let's see if I can bring one up close so you could see, and I can show you what we're talking about here. If I can get some focus. There we go. runes come out pretty decent. I tried to make it look as if they're really hand painted by the crew themselves. The gemstones come out pretty good. I'm happy with those. They look very realistic to me. I think one of the things I've learned over the models I've painted is once I'm done with the model, I spray it in a flat, clear flat. Usually I use the testers, excuse me. And you can spray as many coats as you like. The more coats you like, eventually it'll just mat it all the way down, which in some cases can actually make the colors pop more, especially the contrasting highlights versus shadow. But once it's done, I go back over the gemstones and I hit them up with Ard Coat, so it puts that candy shell back on top, and it makes the gemstone look as though it's real. And you get another shot of those gemstones. I spent a little time with the model itself. This guy, I didn't really notice until I got him built and primered. That is a defect in the plastic kit itself, where the plastic didn't flow into the mold all the way. It is worth saying that when I purchased this model new, I got it off of Amazon, and it was actually an older model in the older packaging, and it was the light gray plastic, which is a little different from that medium gray plastic that we currently have. So when I realized it, I was like, oh darn, well, you know, I've already got this thing primered, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'll put the black band there so it doesn't stand out as much. You know what, and I think it stands out a little bit more actually because of the highlight that's on the black band. But you know what, I don't care. I actually took a picture of it and was thinking about sending it to GW and saying, hey, there's a defect in your model, can you guys do something about it? Maybe hook me up with even with just a new bit. But I decided, screw it, you know, I'm not going to bother with it. It's done. As far as I'm concerned, it looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. It just makes the model a little bit more unique. It's kind of cool that it's not something you see all the time, so a little bit of a defect is just, we'll call it just a character or personality trait. Let me see if I can get a shot of his little information screen. A little shaky there. So, real quick, let's talk about how I run these guys. Get back in focus here. 2 squads of Vipers on the tabletop with a Farseer riding nearby. Their job is to go out with the Farseer. They'll have guide cast upon them. Turn 1 or turn 2, whichever opportunity they have, their job is to go out and secure first blood. They're going to pick a weak squad, and they're going to dump 36 shots of shuriken cannon into that squad. Now they have to get up within 24 inches to do so, and they can move 12 and shoot, so I got a 36-inch threat range, which puts me in bolter range, I will say. And at AV-10 that can be a little scary, but the point is 36 shots of shuriken cannon at a squad with guide, so I'm re-rolling the misses, and if I get doom, then I can re-roll those wounds and to see if I can get more 6s. The point is to just eliminate that squad, secure first blood, and then move around the rest of the table and just continue to be a harassment unit. AV-10 doesn't make them super survivable. They're not. They're definitely not land raiders. But when you add on hollow fields and you just keep these guys moving, that jinx save does help save them. I don't think I recall ever losing an entire squad altogether off the table. I'm usually, if anything, end up with at least one item or one unit left from the squad somewhere, you know, just flying around at that point, dropping in shots where he can and staying in cover. So this is my 2 squads of Vipers guys. Kind of a long rant here. I enjoy the model. It's a very good looking model. It's very fluffy. You don't see too many of these in my neck of the woods. I think I'm the only player I've seen that actually runs Vipers, especially in mass. 2 fast attack slots filled up immediately, and I throw a Crimson Hunter in my war host to round out my fast attack slots. So that way everything in the war host is, again, hovering or flying, moving fast, and dropping a bunch of shots. If you have any doubts about Vipers, you should give them a try. They're actually a very fun model to play with. So, there's the video, guys. I appreciate you taking a look. Please comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching.